I'm not saying yes, because I haven't.
Yeah, God knows you would hate to commit.
No, I'll commit, but I don't
need
know.
it.
I'm gonna
You ever
listen to
been
the
to that?
argument first.
It's like this wide.
Okay, well, yeah, just add that to the $2.3 million plus bill for the
Yep.
park.
That scares the crap out of me.
You can't get through there.
Mr. Glasgow,
Got traffic jam.
wait a minute, let me do this.
And there's not a thing you can do about it.
I know, just for your knowledge. No, there's not. And my problem, this thing isn't on, is it?
We'll get the meeting. I've never met.
Oh, okay. Is this for the first? Okay, I see.
Yeah, first one's agenda item.
Just listen all.
I just read it. Read it.
Is that where that real estate office used to be? Across from CBS.
Don't worry what I got. Mr. Mayor, at 7 o'clock.
Section 8.
Oh, no. It's right behind.
No, it didn't. I thought we were ready to go, I heard. Okay.
Is it on? Oh. How do I go back to clock? Whoops.
That mic must be off back there.
What do
Oh, that's right. You can't get the, she's having trouble with the,
It doesn't matter, she can make notes by hand. She's just trying, that's her shortcut to keep the minutes.
no, she's trying to get the, up on the video.
Good.
YouTube.
Thank God. Okay.
She's struggling, but she'll get it.
No, she will.
Then you ought to give her any time to get it going.
No, just let the mayor know that's what we're waiting for.
Give us a few minutes. She's trying to get the video going.
This chair's crooked.
Hey, Bob, can I get a bottle of that special gin?
I'm sorry, water?
Can I get a bottle of that water or whatever that they got? Thank you.
Oh. This one's screwed up. I don't know. It's leaning to one side.
Thank you.
What are you trying to make it do?
Oh, you got
Sit
one?
straight.
Don't you have a lever? I have a lever
No, but it's leaning. I can feel it leaning. Go ahead. Throw this dang chair out somewhere.
Mr. Mayor, at 7 o'clock.
Kevin, you ready? I will call the town council meeting to order, the March 5th, and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you, Lord, for this evening, this time to come together and do the town's business, to conduct the town's business. Thank you, Father, for all that we have here in Irmo, all the many blessings that we have, and the wonderful city that we have, and everybody here who helps to make that possible. We just ask you to bless our town. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Nope. Next is the reading of the minutes from February the 5th. Is there a motion for approval?
I make a motion.
And second.
Second.
Any discussion? Any changes, anything? Seeing none, all in favor of those being approved as written, do so with show of hands. And next is the minutes from February the 13th. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion on those additions, changes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those as written, do so with show of hands. Next is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you need to add on the briefing?
Yes, sir. I gave everybody a copy of a site plan. This is for a developer that would like to build some low-income tax credit apartments. They are applying this week to South Carolina State Housing to get the tax credits, and of course they won't get an answer whether they've been approved until around August. That's just a heads up. They wanted to let us know that they are making the proposal.
And I think that's with the letter we had in our package.
No, you've got the letters for something different, wasn't this? Your letter was from the folks that built Cinnaberry Point.
No,
And they,
didn't
we had two
something
letters.
from Park Ridge,
Yeah.
Parkside.
Parkside, yes.
Parkside.
Yeah,
Is that,
that's right there behind the AAA Automotive, down in that hole, kind of.
just a minute. Bob, would this back up to the judge's office?
Yes, it will. The federal judge's office
Yeah.
on College Street. That's correct. They're going to use the little driveway that goes behind Smashburger and AAA.
Yeah?
That's really their property for that 8 acres back there that's wooded.
That's,
Did we mention it to the judge?
Doesn't matter.
that's that subdivision right there.
Doesn't matter.
I'm talking about behind,
Yeah, right here,
I'm talking about the judge. Where's AAA on here?
right there.
Right there. Judge is right here.
So this letter came in the mail?
Be up here.
Back here.
There's nothing
Came in
back
our
there right
packet.
now, just woods. This is Columbiana.
I'm gonna drive back there and see.
Yeah.
See if I get shot.
Any questions of Mr. Brown on the administrative briefing? Seeing none, next item is amendments to the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to amend the agenda. Under new business, I would like to take E, F, and G out of there.
All right, so you want to remove E, F, and G. Is there a second?
I second pending the approval of the policy on the park.
Well, if you second it and we take them off, then it'd be off. It wouldn't be pending, they'd just be off.
Okay, I second.
All right, so any discussion? And you made the motion, so.
Well, the reason why I want these to be removed is because they're not needed. We don't want the community park rentals to be politically driven. And in putting these on here, what we're doing is we're politically stating that we're doing something. We've actually given Bob the authority to recognize the charitable work that many of these people are doing, the community work, the community events, and he has the ability to grant those things without it being political at all. And that's why I think these should be removed. They've never been on here. We've never had to okay these in the past.
The only reason I seconded the motion is with the approval on policy of park usage. We don't need that.
Well, I'll let anybody else. Anybody else want to go? Did y'all want to say anything or not? Even if we do not have a written policy, which is what I asked Bob to come up with one, he's always had I'm going to call it an unwritten policy, because he's always been doing that. But you're right, we've never had any of this stuff on there. The people that are coming tonight, in the middle, I think this is their third or fourth year here. We never approved theirs. We just let them come to the podium and tell us what's going on. I also found out that the international thing, the day that they're having that, I think it's the 28th. Riverland Hills is also using the amphitheater that afternoon. We didn't approve that. Bob did. I got something the other day. Union Methodist Church is having an Easter sunrise walk and mile run, plus they're having something over there at 7:30 of worship. We didn't approve that. They call up Bob and they work it out and they say, hey, can we use it? And as long as it's always been I won't call it nonprofit, but basically that, then he's allowed it. If somebody's wanting to use it to make money, they can still do it. They just rent. But if they're a nonprofit, then they get it and they don't have to pay. So yeah, and I think once we do it for one, then we'd have to start doing it forever on every one of them, and that would be more confusing. Bob did come up, and I think it's in y'all's policy.
It's here, yeah.
What he came up with was just a kind of the written thing that he's been doing.
Right.
It's very reasonable.
Yeah, and it just kind of, and that way we all know what that written policy is instead of it just being something that he does here and there. So I agree. I think they ought to come off. We don't need to vote on them. We never have, and I don't think we need to start. And once we start on something, and it gets political and we vote something down because of politics or whatever, then we're into a little bit of a legal challenge there possibly too, and we're just opening up our door for that kind of stuff.
If there's something we're missing, though, I don't know of anything. I think Bob's policy's good and effective.
Any more discussion?
I have a comment I'd like to make. There's a difference between Bob providing a picnic shelter for a church group free of charge, but when folks come and say, well, they want to use the entire park, reserve the entire park, where there's $1,000 fee for the amphitheater, there's $500 for the picnic shelters, that's a significant amount of revenue that he's waiving, plus the liability that's involved with that. Having a festival, you have people out there selling stuff, and there's going to be some liability involved. We're going to incur that liability. He says we're going to sign a waiver. I don't know if that waiver. Where's our lawyer at? He's not here tonight.
Not here tonight, but it's part of the rental. I mean, they will sign the waiver.
Yeah, the waiver is going to protect us. I'm not sure how good that will protect us, but if it does, it does. If it doesn't, we'll add that to another lawsuit we'll have to deal with in the future. But the bottom line is we're putting a lot of responsibility on Bob. We're saying, Bob, we're going to let you make the decision to waive all those fees, grant all those requests. It's not a matter of being political. It's a matter of doing what's right. And the right thing to do when the people come to us and ask us for their support is to give it to them. We can't give them that support under receipt of communications. The right way to do it, according to Robert's rules, is to vote on it as an action item. And that's why it was on the agenda. The second thing I want to say is, what's the procedure for amending the agenda? You got the little flow chart there. You can only amend the agenda for emergency items, financial, or look at your flow chart. You got your flow chart there. This is not a financial matter. This has nothing to do with any emergency allocation of funds or purchases. So you really can't just amend the agenda to take stuff off it.
Yeah, you can.
That's look at your flow chart.
I can. You look at the flow chart. The flow chart says
but I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to finish it.
Add.
But listen, we have to come to. Are you going to let me finish? You're going to interrupt me.
Well,
we have to come to understand. Are you going to interrupt or are you going to let me finish? I have the floor, right? We're going to come to an understanding that, if you give Bob through your policy letter, which I actually think is pretty good, you give Bob that responsibility to make that decision, that's great. I mean, he can make that decision all day long, but when somebody comes to us and say, hey, I want to rent the entire park for whatever event, and if it's a festival, we're going to have some liability involved in that, that's fine. If it's an Easter egg hunt, people didn't ask you for anything. They're using the park. That's what it's there for. That's different. They don't have to come to council and ask us. They didn't come to council and ask us. I don't know why you put it on the agenda, but they didn't come to council and ask us for anything. But I just think it's improper for you to just whack stuff off the agenda and then put all that responsibility on Bob.
Just one question. The International Festival is going to use the whole park?
No.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
What are they going to use?
If I remember correctly, what they said before was they wanted to use the amphitheater, parts of the trail, and one picnic shelter. The other picnic shelter is still available, and
Okay.
So they're only using part of the trails. And probably the same thing as this breast cancer thing. I think they use part of the trails. They use part of the town roadways. They also use the amphitheater and some of that. So, this has never been
That's
on
why
there.
it's on the agenda.
It never has been in the past.
Well, I mean, that's why it's on the agenda, to get them to make their presentation and get it.
Why wasn't it on the agenda the last 3 years?
It wasn't. It wasn't necessary. But since
Right,
you
it
want,
wasn't necessary.
but since you want to make it an issue of proving it, we can do it.
It wasn't necessary. It wasn't on the agenda before because we never done it. And as far as Bob, we pay him pretty well to do these kind of things. That's his responsibility. We don't vote on paying power bills. We don't vote on paying water bills. We don't vote on paying a lot of stuff here in the town because that's his responsibility. As far as agendas, it says right there, procedure to add item to a public meeting. There is no procedure other than what we just did to remove an item or to move an item. So we're not adding, we are removing, and that's completely within the Robert's rules. One person can put something on, 3 people can take something off if they say so elect to. But again, we haven't done this in the past. I think this is just more political from the last meeting when it got brought up, and we don't need to do it. Everything's been approved. When Bob tells the people they can use the park, they can use the park. When he makes that decision, if we ever get tired of his decision-making ability, that'd be something we'd take up with him. But in the meantime, we let him do his job. And that is his job. That's what we gave him to do when we built the park years ago. Never had anything. It was always unwritten, and that's been fine. I wouldn't care if it's still unwritten, but I think it's more clear to have something, and that way we all know what it is. But any more discussion? All in favor, then, of removing those 3 items from the agenda, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item is consideration of communications, and I think we have someone here to speak to us about the in the middle.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
In light of what you just said, I'm not sure that I need to do much of anything. In the past, this is the 5th year we've done the walk at the park, and Nicole is going to give you guys a handout. It was just kind of going over what we've done and what we've added to the event. We've always worked with Bob, so if that's how you all want me to do it from now on, I don't necessarily need to give the presentation. The only thing I was going to let you guys know is we've added an actual barbecue event, and that the South Carolina Barbecue Association has agreed to run the event for the barbecue portion. So they bring their own vendors in, they bring the competitors in. We have the insurance. That was the only thing Bob asked us to do for liability purposes, so we've done all of that. We just wanted to make sure we could have the park for the 29th of June.
And you're still welcome to come. This is just information.
Right. And I just, based on that, that's why I was just going to planning on giving y'all that presentation so you know what we were doing and that we were following the rules that you guys have laid down. We usually get with Chief and make sure that officers are available for the keeping everybody from getting ran over during the run. But this year, since we're going a little bit longer, we'll get with him to make sure in terms of, and with the fire department in terms of people coming, making sure we have all of that straightened out this year. But we've never had a problem in the past. So that was it.
Good.
And since you've changed everything, just go through Bob.
We're glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. We enjoy using it. I mean, we've grown it every year as far as just the run's gone. It kind of goes by itself, and everybody always talks about how great the park is. So each year we bring more people to the park, which is sort of what we wanted to do. And this year we're adding the barbecue component that will hopefully bring in more people. Sure. They usually have, the guy tells me they've done it at Saluda Shoals, and they usually have about 2,000 people. So. Wow. You know, if we can hit 1,000, I'll be happy with that. But for the first year, so that's the hope. And we're always going to try to anchor it around the 4th. So I know that was sort of maybe an issue that the date kind of changes, but it's because the 4th of July is in the middle of the week. So we're always trying to be your event before the 4th. So, and we have community support. We brought our friends with us just to show you that we do. Try to bring people to Irmo that don't normally come. I'm out here, so I mean, I live here, so I love it, but we like to bring other people here too. So that's it.
Good. Any questions?
Any questions?
I'm glad you brought support. I think that's a good idea.
Amen.
We try. We found out for sure that we were coming today, I think maybe Thursday. So that's what we were able to do in a few days. So if you give us a little bit more time, we could probably have the room full. But I thank you guys for always supporting us. And I know I don't want to be political, but I know all of y'all have always supported us. I don't think that we're in the politics of anything, but you guys have always been great. So.
It's a good thing y'all do. Really
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any other considerations of communication? Seeing none. Next item is presentation by citizens. And for agenda items, looks like George Glassmeyer. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. Initially, when I signed up to speak, I wanted to address items E, F, and G under category 10, which is now moot because they've been removed. I just say very quickly, I agree with Mr. Puyatz and the mayor's position on those items. I want to address now item 10C, the proposal to spend $19,750 to widen a portion of the walking trails at the community park. I imagine that this money is money that the Ochre Start was able to generate in their last event, which I'm happy that they're profitable, but I think it's important for council to keep in mind that any monies that the Ochre Start generates goes to the general fund and is up to this council to decide how and when to spend it. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the proposals that the Ochre Start Committee gives you. Moreover, I'm a bit concerned that this council last year elected to raise our taxes on every citizen via the franchise fee to pay for things that Ms. Condon identified to include increased health insurance. And I understand there's a need to cover that expense, but it seems to me that if you don't have money to cover the health insurance premiums without raising our taxes, you certainly don't have money to widen a walking path at a park that I never wanted to begin with. I was opposed to before the land was ever purchased, that Mr. Walker assured the citizens would not exceed $1 million, and the last I checked, which is almost 2 years ago, it was well over $2.3 million. Now you're just making it even worse. So I think you need to keep your eye on the ball and decide where money needs to be spent, where it comes from. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is,
Mr. Deloach, I think, wants to.
well, we got a sign-up sheet. You can speak after. But the next is Rod Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilman.
And give your address.
46 St. Albans Road, Irmo, South Carolina. I just wanted to let you know I'm running for the Planning Commission in case you all had any questions for me on my credentials. We've owned businesses here in Irmo from 84 to 99, and we left for a stint and come back in 2009. My wife and I own a bookkeeping company here in Columbia. So we've owned 4 businesses here in Irmo. I've been a chaplain in the county jail and prisons down at CCI and in Lexington off and on as a lay chaplain. I've was a senior business analyst for a while, analyzing people's companies, telling them where they're profitable, where they're not. And now I'm retired in June of 15, got bored, went back to work. Sell for Jim Hudson Toyota, or Jim Hudson Capital City Rides. But just wanted to let you know that I'm running for the commission, Planning Commission, and wondering if you had any questions. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then I think Wade.
My name's Wade Deloach, live at 156 Finsbury Road. Just want to thank everybody for the supports they have given for the events. And as you already know, I'm real supportive of all kind of events that we have in the park. I don't think it's used enough. I was just curious today from the conversation I just heard. I can ask for everything in the park except one picnic table and get approval, no problem. That's what it sounded like to me. I can invite vendors and trucks out there, no problem. Because the way I understood it, that's what they're going to have. And I don't mind it. I'm all for it. That's like a little clarity about the type of support we're going to get. It's one thing when you get one picnic table, like Barry said. But when you got everything but one picnic table, and I don't know how many people are going to be there or what all they're going to have there. But what about the liability as far as police protection? Are you going to provide anything out there, or are they on their own? If something happens out there, who's responsible? You said they signed a waiver. If they have beer and wine out there, it's a possibility other things could happen. We know that. Without police officers present, I don't know. It's something you might want to think about. Like I really like the events, and how's it fair to the Okra Strut? They're having to put out a lot of money and stuff to put on the events. They charge for these booths and all. So a vendor can go to one festival, not pay anything. Go to the other festival, talk about profit, how much money they make, and what the town can get out of it. So if the international festival becomes something other with, I don't know how much money they're going to make, but they make a good bit of money, is it fair to the town? If you have you're not going to have no police protection out there, or how are you going to handle that? I mean, it's just a question, something to think about. Don't get me wrong, I want the event. I just think that, we need to be cautious when we say we can let somebody have the whole park except one picnic table, and they're good to go. Does this mean I can ask for the amphitheater, no problem, and not get charged a dime for it? Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I had to. All I could get was the picnic table. Maybe I'm wrong. What y'all think about that?
Thank you.
Council and Mr. Mayor, I'm Larry Slaughter. My business is 7467 St. Andrews. I wanted to speak to you about the two Okerstrat-related items, 10C and 10I, quickly. We do ask that you allow us to use some of the surplus that we've raised to do some improvements in the park, and this particular one is for widening one of the trails, particularly where the food vendors sit. So we've considered it. Many thanks to WIT for helping guide us through this, but such a great asset. But we appreciate the opportunity. Any questions you have, be glad to help you with. Secondly, item I, the appointments of the commission are at the pleasure of you as the council members. We voted in the Okerstrat Commission to recommend and request to you that you appoint Jada Powell to this unexpired position. Jada's a 6-year resident, 12-year experience in EMS and ER work, and 3 children here in the area. But we have a very big preference for her for one big reason. She shows up. She's helped. She's volunteered with us the last couple of years. She's been a part and active in the commission as a non-voting commissioner. We want everybody to come and help us. We can use as many volunteers as we can, but she's really been there for us, and we ask and request that that would be your appointment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I wanted to point out some bias that was shown with the first speaker tonight. There were 3 items removed from the agenda, and he was allowed to get up here and speak about them, but the last meeting I was threatened with removal for the exact same thing. I don't think that's very fair, and once again, a show of favoritism between citizens. Also, the building of the park is not on the agenda at all, and he was allowed to speak about that. Secondly, the Planning Commission kind of piggybacks on what I just said. My name has been thrown in there the last several times there has been an opening, to which, of course, I have not been elected because 3 of you do not care for me. I will tell you the most recent decision the Planning Commission made was, in a Planning Commission member's own words, not thought out at all. The only thing, and I'm referring to the property across from Jim Hudson that they told y'all to make commercial. The only reason I can think a group of citizens would do that is if someone on that commission would benefit from that. Why they wouldn't think about the residential homes around that piece of property is beyond me. So again, we have been electing people and allowing people to come up here and speak based on whether or not we like them instead of whether or not they're qualified or allowed to do things. And I think that needs to change. That's all.
Anyone else? Seeing none, next item is no unfinished business. We have 2 things on here for the approval for the police officer salary and bonuses and approval to adopt the longevity bonus. And when you make a motion, if somebody does, make it, I guess, number A first is for the officer salary and or the bonuses, which would be the starting salary increase if we're going to do that, and then also the $1,000 bonus if we're going to do that. Be proposal 1 and 2, and then proposal 3 would come under the longevity thing. But does anybody want to make a motion?
Say that last thing again about proposal 3.
Proposal 3 was the
Okay, I know.
Longevity thing.
Okay.
And the ranking thing.
Got it.
That would be number B. The 1 and 2 proposal would be number A.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make?
Well, is this the one that's in the packet you're talking about? Or the one we talked about it?
About right there, yeah.
Well, it needs to be written down. Where's it written down?
Well, that's what somebody would have to make. Does anybody want to make one, or I'll make one if nobody wants to make one?
A motion?
Yeah.
Oh, I make a motion that we approve.
Well, that's what I'm saying, make a motion.
Makes a motion for
What?
for what?
Well,
We don't have it written down anywhere.
well, that's what we're gonna make a motion
We're
for.
talking about this, right?
Well, all that stuff that he just talked about.
I understand. That's longevity. Okay.
I mean, we could,
I think we need to write it down and present it.
well, I
at the
will when
meeting.
she speaks it.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna write it down as you make it.
Really?
Yeah, so make it, well, now you could just do an across the board, as he mentioned, a $3,000 increase, raising the 35 to 38 and the 38 to 41.
Okay.
That would be that one.
Okay, write that one down.
And then the bonuses would be everyone getting the $1,000 bonus across the board. That would be all in that A. So if you want me to do it, I'll do this, and then if it gets a second.
The wording of the first one, I think we're going to have to reword it with Eric, but I think that's what it is.
Well, this is a one-time approval. It's not a.
I
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve raising the 35,000 to 38,000, and the 38,000 to 41,000.
41,000.
And let me just write this down. And at the same time, approving a $1,000 bonus across the board to all the certified police officers.
Okay.
That's kind of what those two were. So is there a second?
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
All right, so there's a motion and a second, and let me just restate that, to raise the 35,000 starting salary to 38. And right now, the ranking, or the salary, starting salary is between 35 and 38.
Right.
So it would go up $3,000, so it'd be between 38 and 41,000, and then $1,000 across the board to all the certified officers. So I'll go first since I made it. And I think from the meeting we just had, what Bob said is doing that across the board, 35 to 38, would cost somewhere around $67,000 this year to accomplish that. And then the 1,000 bonus would be $26,000 because there's 26 certified police officers. So them two together was about 32, 33, but right in that range there. And this will allow them to be a little bit more competitive on their starting salary with the other areas. And then also, since there's going to be some people that are, say, making 41 right now, that may have been there 2 years or 3, and the new people will be bumped up close to them, then everybody will get a $1,000 bonus to kind of offset that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their recommendation on that. Plus the third one, too, which would be the next thing. So, Councilman Pouliot.
All right. I know that we're having some difficulty retaining, and we're having some difficulty attracting. So this seems to be a move, and I'm thinking that I'm feeling both of you in that why we're rushing this. And we could put this off, but this is going to require 3 votes anyway.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's not?
You know, it's on here for an approval. It's just a one-time approval. It's not.
Then I do have a problem with this.
Well, it doesn't matter. Whenever we put it on, it's going to be a one-time vote because it's not an ordinance. It's a cash approval, just like approving the bid.
I think we should be doing this at the next meeting. It gives us a chance to really digest all of these numbers and figure out how we're going to pay for it.
Who went? Oh, you did. Anybody else want to?
I concur. I mean, I understand and I agree with the concept of bringing everybody up to 38,000. And like he said, it's only going to cost us what, $7,000 to do it for that piece. And then on top of that, to bring the other everybody across the board $1,000, it's no problem. But I want to see it in writing. I want to see it in writing and legible so that we can understand it, so that citizens can understand what we're doing.
Put it up there. That's right.
I mean, we're doing it on the fly here, and that's dangerous. I don't know what the implications are. I want to do it. I will vote for doing it, but I think we need to make sure it's written down so we can read it, not doing it on the fly like this. But
I agree. We need it on paper so we can see it, so
Well,
officers can see it.
And that's fine if y'all want to.
Just as much as it affects, and
Yeah.
citizens can see it.
If y'all want to defer it, that's fine. The only thing I'm going to say is, putting this down in writing is going to be a one-line thing. It ain't going to be hard to understand after we read it. It says increase it $3,000 and do a bonus of $1,000. One of them costs $26,000 and one of them costs $6,000 or $7,000. If y'all want to defer it, that's fine. But I don't know what, looking at it a week from now, plus we had a meeting on it at the last meeting, and that's kind of what this meeting was to get everything out there so we all knew. But if y'all want to defer it, that's fine too. I just don't know. I mean,
I'm ready to vote on it, but if they have reservations or think, I can understand that too.
let him put it in writing, I mean, so we can make sure.
Well, I think I just put it in writing.
Where?
Can you read it, Renee?
Put it on the system.
Well, we can't put it up there, but
There you go. You can't put it on the system. Nobody can see it. Classic example.
Can you read what the motion is?
Yes, the motion is to raise the base salary from the 35,000, 38,000 range to 38,000,
41.
41,000 yearly range. And across the board, 1,000 bonus for all certified police officers.
I mean, Mr. Mayor, if I can, if council wants to vote and approve doing those two things, next meeting we can have the budget amendment on there and give you an exact figure of what it would cost to do those two things. Because it's really not 26,000. We only got 22 officers right now, so that'd be 22,000. And I can tell you exactly what it would cost to adjust the officers that are under 38,000.
Would that?
Not a big deal.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
So you want to amend the motion or defer the motion?
Defer the motion.
And so you're going to make a motion to defer?
I hate to do it because I'm ready to vote, but
Well, I'll
but
make a motion to defer.
I have respect for them. I understand what they're saying.
Is there a second to defer?
Second.
No, well, Julie's got it. Any discussion on that?
You know,
again-
for the next meeting, or?
Yeah, I think the next meeting will be fine.
That'd be March the
19th.
19th.
That way we can see it in the packets. Yeah.
All right. All in favor of deferring until March 19th, do so with show of hands. All against? And next one, we can make a motion to approve and go through that, or we can make a motion to defer if you want to defer that one as well.
I make a motion to defer.
Second.
Any discussion?
For the same reasons.
Any more? All in favor then of deferring that, item B, do so with show of hands. All opposed? All right, next is item C, approval to award a contract to Madco Contracting in the amount of $19,750. Is there a motion for approval? And I will make a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
I made the motion, so I'll go. This came up probably months ago when they did their final, when they come to us and give us their final, budget for the year or how much they made and all that kind of stuff. And they had mentioned then at that time that they felt like they needed to widen that path trail right there next to where the parking lot is, because all the food vendors set up there. That's where all the electricity is. And that path is it 8 foot wide, Bob? Or width?
It's 9 foot wide.
9. And when you put the food vendors on both sides of it, and all the people waiting in line to get food, then there's probably about that much space for people to walk through. So it's gotten real crowded in there. They cannot authorize the spending of the money, but they voted at their orchestra meeting to have us do it. And a couple months back, we actually voted to tell Bob to go ahead and get bids and all that good stuff. And the bids came back. The low one was $19,750. The next one was $32,880, and the next one was $47,880. So this is the lowest bid. And is it 20 foot of it, 30 foot of it? Do you know offhand?
We're adding 6 feet. It's going to be 15 feet wider.
5 feet wider and 402 feet, I believe, long.
Long, okay. So it'll basically go from wherever the green space is all the way kind of around that curve, okay. And this is done in order to make the elk strut a little bit more, whatever you call it, non-road blocking, so people can get through a whole lot easier. The money is money that was made at the elk strut, and in a way, it kind of belongs to the elk strut, but not really. It belongs to the town, and so yes, the money would be coming out of our general fund, but it would also be coming from that revenue that they've created over the years. And probably at this time, Bob, is it about 70,000 that they have created over the last 3 years, maybe 70 or 80, something like that.
They started with about 30, so I think they actually made about 50 something.
50, okay. So we would be using that money there and taking it out of that account, so to speak. So it wouldn't necessarily be coming from the money that we raised from the 1 penny to go for the other stuff. But it's still coming out of general fund. But even though I know it's more cost, more to the park, and yes, the park went from 2.3 to now 2 point something, but I think it's still needed. There's a lot of people that walk through that area with baby carriages, and everybody's trying to get through, and people walking backwards, and it's it's kind of a congested area.
Don't you remember a lot of mud last year?
Well,
I remember.
Some of the vendors kind of back off a little bit, and then it just gets swampy if it rains. So
And it did.
It's something that's probably needed.
You got to take out more trees?
There is a few trees, about a dozen.
Is that part of the bid?
Yeah.
We'll take the trees out in-house.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Firewood?
Or good mulch for,
burn my-
y'all haul those off or you just mulch them?
Put too much creosote in your chimney. Mine will.
Okay.
So, any more discussion? Any more? Y'all good?
Well, I did want to ask, as far as the thickness that they're going to put in there, 2 inches, is that what the others are?
Correct.
And that was all in the bid?
Correct. I mean, they'll put the new patch and then they'll actually overlay the whole thing. So all the new will be 1/2 new and 1/2 old.
Okay.
Asphalt, isn't it?
It's asphalt.
Okay.
What was the difference between the 19 and 32? What was why was it such a big difference?
One guy's busy, one guy's not.
And that could be a lot of it. You never know.
We'll have 7 in there.
Let's see if we got something here, all right?
I mean, because last time we got the lowest bidder on that, that bathroom, we got messed up, and the lowest bidder wasn't actually the best one, the choice to make. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they can't get that.
And a lot of it's based on it drying out too, I guess.
It's pretty dry in that area. We think we can probably get to work out there in a few weeks.
Really?
Yeah. That's the driest area of the park.
Wow.
All the water's down by the playground.
Oh.
Really?
And again, this $20,000 amenity we're adding to the park is just more expenditure for this park that we never used, and it was a waste of money to some people's eyes to actually build, but we're actually adding amenities to it to make it even better. So I think it's a pretty good use of our taxpayer money.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of approving the contract in the amount of $19,750 to Medco, do so with show of hands. And next is the appointment to the Planning Commission. And
You're skipping one.
oh, I got that almost marked out. Number D, approval. Oh yeah, that's policy. Y'all have in your package the thing that Bob came up with. And so is there a motion for the approval of the policy on the park usage?
I so moved. Oh, Mr. Waits did. I'll second him.
So who?
Mr. Waits did, and I'll second him.
Oh, okay. All righty. So
you moved it in second.
I'm being nice. It's mighty
I'll go
good.
second here.
Well, we've got a policy, which seems to have been the problem.
Can you put it up on the screen, please?
Hey, my thing ain't even on.
Can't put it on the screen?
We don't have the policy that council got on their package.
Okay.
So, Kathy, you seconded. You want to?
Yeah, I think this is better for the town because it does eliminate politics entering into it. If Bob has any,
I want everybody else to see it.
if Bob has any political sway, I don't know what it is, which is a good thing. And for nonprofit groups, I think this is very good. This is what we've been doing anyway.
Kinda.
But it's now in writing, and I think it's excellent.
And I think, and I don't know if anybody else wants to go, but I think a lot of the stuff that the gentleman may have brought up, Wade, I think it's in that application anyway. It covers a lot of that stuff.
What application?
When people come fill out an application to use the park,
Oh.
it has a lot of that stuff about the drinking and the wine and all that kind of stuff.
Is it in there? I don't know. Is it in there?
Yeah.
You can't have beer and wine? Oh, okay.
But it tells.
Family parties, you can't have it in this park over here.
Right. But in community park, I'm saying, yeah. Okay. So, is that, are you finished?
I'm for it.
So, Bob, this is a policy that you came up with, or I guess y'all worked on it?
Well, Hardy had me working on it, and then we made some changes, and I gave it to him. He made a couple more changes, and this is the proposal.
Okay, so the bottom line is that no exceptions will be granted for political events nor profiting events. I wish you had it up on the screen so everybody can see this policy. Since
Well, once council approves it, it's a foyable item, and anybody can get a copy of it.
You can have political events and profit events, but
Beg
you
your pardon?
gotta pay the fee.
Yeah, you got to pay the fee.
That's the only difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
just to waive the fee.
Yeah, like if some Republican or Democrat or a candidate wants to use it, they can. They just got to pay the fee. This is just where, if I don't say a church group,
Okay, that's fine.
That's all it is.
then he can waive it if it's for all those nonprofit things. Anything else, then they got to pay. And even though
nonprofit being 501c3 or
well, and
or
like
just somebody says I'm nonprofit.
Yeah.
and
Like Arbor Day even. They could use it.
Okay.
yeah, and if somebody, let's just say they're a nonprofit campaign, they're still going to pay because they're a political campaign.
Say it again now?
Like a political event. If I wanted to have
Oh,
a
yeah,
political
yeah,
event
you
over there,
made that clear.
Dick Harpootlian or the Republicans or whatever, they may be a nonprofit, but they're still, they got to pay because it's a political thing.
Okay. Well, again, I'm concerned that I'm concerned that Bob has all that responsibility. Not that you can't make those decisions, Bob, but I think when somebody wants to rent the entire park or everything but one picnic shelter, they should come to the council and let us know what they're doing. And it's not political. It's just.
Well, that's the way we've been doing it. I don't imagine we'd change. I'd still invite them to come give their presentation to council. It's just not a council voting decision normally.
At least we know about it, and if we want to attend, then we've kind of been invited, you might say. So, any more discussion?
So this is only for elementary groups that have been promoting these events without profit consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had any problem the last 5 years. We've been written it out. We've had no issues.
Okay.
So all in favor then of the policy park approval, whatever you call that, park usage policy, do so with show of hands. And did you vote?
All opposed?
All opposed?
Now, Bob, make sure you tell the orchestra that they have to pay that $1,700 fee to rent the park since they're a profit organization.
They're sponsored by the town and they belong to the town, so they wouldn't have to pay.
But they're a profit organization. It says.
Thank God they're a profit.
It says that no exceptions will be granted for political events nor for profiting events. The orchestra profits events, right? It's a profiting event, right? They're not a profiting event? I thought the orchestra you guys make a profit every year. That's what they told us.
Well, now it's a profit event.
Well,
wasn't
that
a
means
few
they had to
years
pay
ago.
a fee. They have to put that line item, $1,700 to rent the picnic shelter and the amphitheater. I know it needs to be a line item in their budget, though, to rent the park. That's our policy, right? I'm just saying, we just passed this policy. That's our policy. No?
Yeah, they belong to the town, and it'd be like the town writing a check back to the town, so I don't know what the...
It should be a line item in their budget is what I'm saying.
Well, it could be a line item in their budget for all the stuff that the town has done for them, but we didn't do it 10 years ago, so I don't know why we'd do it today, but...
It was losing money.
Next item then is appointment to the Planning Commission. And remember, and I don't know if y'all remember, but there are 3 ways. I think we made that thing before. Well, 4 ways, actually. There was a nomination by the chair, which we talked about, nominations from the floor, which we talked about, motion to nominate, which we talked about, and motion to appoint, which is kind of the better way of doing it. So.
I make a motion to appoint Walter Lindler.
Is there a second?
Second.
These are open nominations? This is what you said?
No, she just made a motion to appoint.
Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Rod Rockwell.
So you'll have to amend the motion to add another name.
Okay, I amend the motion to add the name Rod Rockwell.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second.
I make a motion to amend to add Brandy Clarkson. Sorry, Brandy Clarkson.
Is there a second? Motion dies for a lack of second.
Who was that third guy? It was Jada, it was Randy, oh, Michelle Carpenter. I make a motion to amend and add Michelle Carpenter.
Is there a second? And motion dies for a lack of second. All right. Any other amendments? Seeing none, back to a motion to appoint Walter Lindler. Any discussion?
He's trained, has experience, he's been on council during turbulent years and did a good job. I think I think he does well at this, so that's why I nominated him.
And who seconded that? Julius?
Speak up, please.
Julius? Is
I
any?
think we're having battery problems. Nope, there we go. I second what Ms. Condon said. He's been on the council. He has served his church in a rather financial position that he's overseen for a number of years, one of the largest churches in the city of Columbia. He's lived in Irmo since 1975, I believe, is when he moved out here.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Before he was in the town of Irmo. I moved here in '86, and we became part of the town of Irmo. He's done a good job. And he wishes us to serve some more.
Any more discussion?
Just one thing. I'm delighted that we have more people signing up for things. In this case, I thought Walter was the best one, but it really makes you feel better about things that we have this many applicants. It does.
We're going to keep the comments to ourselves back there. Any more discussion? Anybody?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh.
Vote. It's a point.
All in favor then of Walter Lindler, do so with show of hands. Next is the appointment to the Orchestra Commission, and the same thing. We can, 4 different methods of doing it.
I have a nomination.
Now, I thought, point of information, isn't Jada already on the Orchestra Commission? As a non-voting member? So the Orchestra Commission made her a voting member, right? Y'all voted to make her a voting member? Or?
That's what this is for.
I thought they automatically make those decisions on that committee. Oh, okay.
No, they can nominate all the volunteers, and they can make them all non-voting, but we have to appoint.
So we don't have to nominate people just to serve on the Orchestra Commission as a non-voting member.
No. They do that.
They do that? Okay, I got you. Okay.
And normally they'll pull people that have volunteered and make them a non-voting.
I got
and
you.
then use those to bring to the.
So you guys replace I guess Randy is one left. Y'all replace Randy as a non-voting member? Or you're going to replace Jada as a non-voting member? You guys are going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jada is currently a non-voting member, one of 2 in the commission, non-voting member. We have one open seat voting commission, and that's you.
I have some people that want to be on the commission that are on non-voting members. So do they bring them to you, or do they have to come to us? Or?
Come to meetings.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
About 2 times they get assigned to something. That's about it.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm cool.
Okay, I make a motion to.
Wait a minute. You made the last motion.
Well, I'm good at this. I'm really good at this.
She's on a roll.
I'm on a roll, yeah.
Okay.
I want Jada to have it. I think that's an excellent choice.
I second
And
it.
the chairman recommended her. That's all I need, but we know how good she is.
All right, so there's been a motion to appoint Jada and
Voting member.
Kathy and Julia seconded. Any discussion? So, Kathy,
But,
you want to go? You made the motion, so you can go first.
all you have to do, the trick or trunk or treat, whatever.
Trunk or treat.
The Easter egg hunt, I mean, this is an event planner, a lady with a lot of talent. And I don't want to lose her for anything. So I want her on here. Mary, you keep her happy, all right? Okay, good.
And Julius, you made it.
Amen.
Anybody else? Anybody want to comment? All in favor then of appointing Jada Powell to the Orchestra Commission, do so a show of hands. And next is presentation by citizens, and I think we have the sign-in sheet on that. And I don't know if I want to wait, but there's a Mickey Mouse on here, so we could either wait for Mickey Mouse to show up and speak. I don't know if we ought to give 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Wait a minute. Okay.
I'm Wade Deloach, 156 Finsbury Road. I was just listening to you guys talking about the events and commissions, and from what I understand, the only event this council is going to support is for the town that's voted by the council is the Okra Strut.
Mm-hmm.
There's no possibility that any other events will be supported by the town. I wonder if maybe instead of calling it the Okra Strut Committee, maybe call it an event committee. I mean, do they have the monopoly on all the events, and they're going to be the only event this town will ever support? I just
Okay, that's all right.
kind of got a lost thought there. I mean, if you understand what I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
where are we going in the future? I mean, I just don't feel like you're taking the wind out of a lot of people that want to do things. I mean, I try to put on stuff not for myself but for everybody. And to think that the town will only support and vote on the Okra Strut, nothing else. I just don't get it.
You ought to answer that.
And also, like on another note, Brady and I have started up a group called the Handy Hands of Irmo. And we're here to help people out that are down on their luck. You know, just come out of hospital, surgery, can't do stuff for themselves, and the yard might got out of hand. Or maybe we got a military soldier overseas, and their wife's left over here and needs a little help with the yard or house maintenance. We can't do everything, and we can't be there for everybody. We're trying to do what we can and be there for those who we can. And we'd like to ask council if the police department has somebody that's in that situation and needs, just let me know. And we'll see if we can't get some people together to come out and help. But I kind of feel like, from what I've heard, people like myself will probably always be left out on events as far as the support like you give the Okra Strut. And if I feel that way, there's probably others out there that do too. Think about it.
Oh, George.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Glassmer, 100 Denbeck Road. I want to address two issues tonight. The first one is the increase of the franchise fee that this council approved late last year. When council approved it, I suspect all of you expected that those increases would be implemented promptly by all the utilities, simultaneously or nearly simultaneously by all the utilities, that all the citizens would be taxed fairly and impacted by that increased tax fairly and simultaneously, and that the town of Irmo would collect every penny that the various utilities collected for the franchise fees. Well, after some extensive research, I can assure you that none of those four things are going to happen or have happened. None of them. As you know, the franchise fee is collected by virtually all the utilities that do business in the town. The largest ones, of course, are going to be SC&G in Mid-Carolina, and I would dare say that virtually every resident in this town does business with one or both of those. I discovered this problem, and what caused me to look into this was that at my house, I'm served by Mid-Carolina Electric and SC&G for natural gas because I need both utilities, and Mid-Carolina doesn't sell natural gas. I was looking at my November 2018 bills for both of them, and I noticed that Mid-Carolina increased the franchise fee from 3% to 4%, but SC&G did not. And that caused me to get in touch with Bob, and he referred me to the point person at each respective utility, SC&G and Mid-Carolina, and I learned a couple things. First of all, I learned that each electric utility sends an annual check to the town on or about July 1st of every year for the franchise fee. But Mid-Carolina and SC&G do it quite differently. Mid-Carolina looks at all the franchise fees billed for the check that we'll get in the middle of this year. Mid-Carolina will look at all the franchise fees billed by them during calendar year 2018 and remit us a check for those. Some of that will be at the 3% rate and some at the 4% rate because council approved this about the fall of last year. SC&G is going to do it quite differently. SC&G will give us a check in the middle of this year at the rate of 4% for the entire billed amount for 2018, which at first blush seems great. However, they are not going to begin assessing residents at the increased rate until January of 2020, which is more than a year after the Mid-Carolina residents have to start paying the increase. In fact, it's going to be about 13 or 14 months later. So you don't have equal taxation of the residents. Moreover, SC&G's approach is when they start collecting the increased rate in January of 2020, in their view, that's how they recoup the cost for the check that they remitted to the town in the middle of 2019, and the town does not get all of that money. They keep it all. Now, unless you can convince me that either SC&G will have fewer customers than in 2020 than it did in 2018, or that consumption will be lower in 2020 versus 2018, or that rates will be lower in 2020 than they are in 2018, this creates a windfall for SC&G. So in summation, you've got the town not getting every dime that the utilities are collecting, at least that SC&G is collecting, and more importantly, and this is the problem I really have, the major problem I have with this, is that all the residents in the town are not feeling the impact of that increase simultaneously. Some of them started feeling it last November, and others won't feel it until January of next year. Now, how is that fair? The other topic I want to talk about is the fact that at the last meeting, a citizen came up here, a gentleman who was very eloquent, very respectful, very nice, and certainly seemed to know what he was talking about when he asked for the council to consider or approve the International Cultural Festival that he was planning to present at the park. Now, I think it's perhaps the worst kept secret in town that Mr. Walker has some personal, political, and philosophical differences with the mayor. And I respect the fact that people have differences. But Mr. Walker, if you've got problems with the mayor in those regards, you need to address those to the mayor. Instead, you chose to ask the gentleman that came up here some very pointed questions and some very questions that didn't really have anything to do with his presentation, and you used him as a political pawn, if you will, to advance your own political agenda towards the mayor and put him in a very difficult position, and I thought it was abhorrent that you did that. I thought it was
abhorrent.
Oh,
abhorrent.
Abhorrent. ABHORRENT.
Abhorrent. Okay.
Yes, and I think it was disrespectful. And I think as a minimum, you owe that gentleman an apology for your behavior, and probably the entire town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Sickinger, 417 Crestfell Road, Irmo. First of all, thank you for deferring the police pay raise thing. It was, it just seems strange to me that no one really knew 100% what the numbers were, and we're asking specifically for a motion to be called without really knowing what the motion was in the first place. It just felt out of place to me. Wanted to make sure I have a couple of things, so I wanted to make sure I didn't forget that. Second, I want to say thank you to the town for having wonderful green spaces that we can all appreciate and enjoy across the town. Our parks are beautiful, and they're wonderful, and they're enjoyed by all. Last, I wanted to give an update on U.S. v. Town of Irmo. The case was reassigned to Judge Honorable J. Michelle Childs. Judge Honorable Joseph F. Anderson, Jr. is no longer assigned to the case. And there was a mediation order that was put into place February 21st, and that mediation is due by 11/7/2019. Which is all pretty standard, but I thought it's important that the residents of the town who may not know how to get onto Pacer get that update. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next is discussions, no discussions, executive session, none, and next would be adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment? And second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. It is, it's Terry Waite's birthday today. Terry Waite's birthday.
Give those to Renee.
Mickey Mouse.